This is the moment we've all been waiting for the thousands in attendance and the millions watching around the world. Let's get ready to
Welcome to the Junkyard Pod. I'm Tony Pesta, joined by Jackson Flickinger, and the Cleveland Cavaliers have lost a game for the first time in about 5 weeks. The last time they lost was February 4th. The sun was still setting before 6 o'clock back then, so we've gone a long time without a loss. We're going to talk all about that game against the Orlando Magic, but first, Jackson, I have to ask because the people want to know. Is the Cavs season officially over? Is this it? Did the Cavs just prove they're not a real contender? What happened?
This could be it. So be sure to like and subscribe on your way out. And we'll see you. We'll see you next October.
Yeah, thank you, fans, for tuning in. Listen, obviously, this is all the proof that you needed, right, to determine that the Cavs are frauds. But no, listen, that you're going to lose games in the NBA, right? In fact, I think we've talked a lot about the last few pods and the playback streams that there was a lot of scheduled losses that the Cavs managed to avoid throughout this streak, whether it be just, back-to-backs or guys resting and everything. Like dropping one game out of 17, it's not a concern to me. With that said, though, we're going to talk about what went wrong in that game. To me, one thing that stands out right away, the Cavs, they entered this game as the best three-point shooting team in the NBA. The Magic, on the other hand, entered this game as the worst three-point shooting team in the NBA, and the Magic shot better than the Cavs from deep. This was actually the second worst shooting performance the Cavs have had all year. Fun fact, their worst happened 5 days before this. They shot 23% against Brooklyn, 25% against the Magic. So the Cavs overall have been in a little bit of a shooting funk. Again, they've been the best three-point shooting team in the NBA, but in March, they're 25th so far. So I wrote for Fear of the Sword about how they kind of surrendered to the three-point variance in this game, but I wanted to ask you, first, just general takeaways from the game, and also, do you think they needed to adjust their approach, or was it just not their night from three?
I think they could have gone to Allen a little bit more down the stretch. Only had 2 shot attempts in the fourth quarter, and I thought he was a big part of why they were able, their offense was so good in the first quarter. But I'm mostly fine with the process. I think the process was fine. Another fun fact, the Cavs' best three-point shooting performance came like 2.5 weeks ago against the same Orlando Magic. So to everybody who's saying like the Magic, their defense, it's just an unsolvable thing for the Cavs. It's like, no, it's not. And there was a lot of talk in the media room about that afterwards, about the Magic being a tough matchup. And I'm here to tell you, Magic are not a tough matchup. I'm sorry. We may need to say something to Paulo in advance, who he seems to really think that this is a good matchup for him for some reason. I don't know. Was he playing in a different playoff series than the one he actually played in? Because he didn't have like a standout playoff series, in my opinion. They put George Niang on him at certain points because of how much of a non-threat he was. I'm taking it a little too far, but this team's not a threat to the Cavs. This was just a bad shooting night. I went through on Fear of the Sword. I went through all of the late possession shot attempts, and most all those threes were either like A+ looks or at least like B+ looks, considering the situation. I just thought there was a lot of dumb decisions that the Cavs made. I look at Donovan Mitchell. He had that foul with 30 seconds left right after the Hunter missed three that just sent Orlando to the line for no reason. Would have loved to see them play defense for 20 seconds. He had a bad turnover there. You had that string of 3 turnovers in a row in the third quarter. So there were these little instances where like the team took their eye off the ball. I thought Darius should have got the ball a little more in the fourth quarter, only 4 shot attempts. Thought Donovan kind of leaned into like, I don't want to say his worst tendencies, because I think Donovan is one of the best players in the entire NBA, and he's done a phenomenal job this year balancing scoring and the needs of the team. But I think last night in the fourth quarter, 3 for 12 from the field in the fourth, that's not the good stuff. So I think that there were some missed shots. They could have used Mobley, but there's nothing concerning about anything that we saw.
Yeah, no, look, anyone who's like legitimately worried about the Magic in a 1-8 playoff series for the Cavs, we got to pump the brakes. All right. They just obliterated this team not long ago. They went 3-1 on the season. And this was what, like we said, this is the second worst 3-point shooting night they've had all year. They turned the ball over like crazy. Some of the process stuff wasn't great. Tristan Thompson played the opening minutes of the fourth quarter, and this was still a winnable game.
I don't know why he was playing instead of Green.
Yeah, it was some strange decisions for the rotation there, but I don't want to go too deep on Tristan Thompson because it's not that important, but of all the matchups to play Tristan Thompson, at least this one is like probably the better ones in the NBA because like the Magic usually can't really put you in space and make you defend. They're very bad 3-point shooting team. They actually average so this is a stat that I pulled, another fun fact here. The Magic, they average 10 threes per game and they shoot 31% on those threes. They hit 10 made threes. Yeah, sorry. The Magic hit an average of 10 threes per game on just 31% shooting. In the second half against Cleveland, they hit 7, and they shot about 44%. So this was a little bit of an outlier game for them. I wouldn't be worried at all.
One more fun fact on that super quick.
Yeah.
10 made threes was the Cavs' like least amount hit for the entire season in a game. So that just kind of shows the gap.
Yeah, I mean, these teams there's a huge gap between them. Banchero, I want to talk about him a little bit later. The thing is, like, he had big moments in the playoffs last year, but he was very inefficient. I think it stood out just because everyone in that series was inefficient. So, like, his bursts of scoring were big. But really, to me, this game, like, look, you're going to have nights where your 3-point shot doesn't fall in the NBA. The thing is, you can't have that happen on the same day where you're also not taking care of the ball. And I thought that's where the Cavs really dropped this game. They were super sloppy in the second half with turnovers and some of their shot selection that was like almost a turnover in a different way. Yes, you got to give credit to Orlando's defense for influencing some of that. But you mentioned the third quarter. Cavs turned it over 3 times in a row, just trying to get it across half court. It gave me flashbacks to the Indiana full court press where you got to beat a full court press in the NBA. Right. I mean, it's that simple. You can't, as good a defense as they were playing, you have to be able to beat a full court press. So that was just a weird moment. The Cavs in the first quarter against Orlando scored 38 points. They had 43 points in the entire second half. So it was just like clearly this team we've seen throughout that they can score in bunches against Orlando, even in the first quarter of that game, but they just kind of fell apart in the second half. They had 11 turnovers in the second half to only 2 turnovers in the first. Mitchell shot 6 of 18 in the second half. No one else on the Cavs took more than 6 shots. So I do agree. It felt like Mitchell kind of called his own number because nothing else was really working. And that's something that, at times he's done very well this year. The Celtics games come to mind where it's like, all right, he just takes over and we end up winning off, just he carries us to the victory line. But he hasn't really had to take over as often this year because the offense is usually firing on all cylinders. But this was an instance where balancing the scoring and distributing just didn't work out that well for Mitchell. I think the ball should have been in Garland's hands more, like you said. But even with that said, bunch of opportunities to win this game, a ton of wide open threes that, Sam Merrill missed a bunch, Mitchell, Garland, Hunter, like nobody shot the ball well. When you combine that with just the fact that they turned it over a bunch, it was a bad storm for the Cavs.
Yeah, it was just a bad game. And I mean, they've had bad games before, but I think in a lot of their other like bad games, it's like Ty Jerome rescues them, or like the Portland game, they all play bad, and it's like DeAndre Hunter rescues them. And this game, Donovan decided he was going to rescue them, but he didn't, and it's fine. And they just miss good shots. Like they honestly miss good shots. I went over on afraidofthesword.com. You should check that out. But like, there was a late closeout from Paulo on a Hunter corner 3. It should have been, that's one that you're gladly going to sign up for. After that, they got a good look for Max Strus. After that, they got a pretty decent look for Donovan Mitchell. Then they get an offensive rebound and led to another decent look for Donovan Mitchell. And it's like, yeah, if you miss 4 threes in the last minute of the game, that's like, there's nothing you can do about it. Like they generated the looks that they wanted to. You could argue that on like the first Mitchell 3, like Darius had a path to the rim. He could have tried to go for a layup with like 17 seconds left. You still had 2 timeouts. make them play the free throw shooting game, because if there's one thing that the Magic want to do, it's try to lose games, because they do that more often than they win them. So like, I would have been okay with that, but also I understand why you want to shoot the three, because that's how you tie the game. And they're probably conditioned by Kenny that every team under 45 seconds, if they're up three, they're just going to start fouling.
Yeah,
so
I was thankful that didn't happen. I was at least, we got 4 looks at it. We got 4 looks at it. We couldn't get it home. At least I'll take that over playing the free throw contest at the end of games, even though it probably would have benefited us that night. Although they missed 8 free throws too. So a bunch of turnovers, a bunch of missed free throws, every opportunity to tie the game or take the lead. And they just, they didn't have it. And that's going to happen. Usually it doesn't all happen at once, but sometimes it does.
And I thought the defense was mostly okay. Like, I don't think it was a great
they held it to
defensive
108.
Game, but I didn't think like they were really bad. The Magic hit some shots.
Yeah,
it's fine.
The Magic had one play. There's the one play that sticks out and everyone mentions where Hunter and Mitchell got their wires crossed on a switch, but that's going to happen throughout the course of 48 minutes. It just happened at a crucial point, and we know that the Cavs defense is usually more tuned in than that.
Yeah, and it's also kind of a different situation where you don't have the usual closing lineup with Mobley and Hunter as like the backline of the defense. So that could have led to some confusion as well. But yeah, it's fine. I mean, the Magic treated it like it was their NBA Finals. Jamal Mosley was pumping his fists on the sideline like 2001 Tiger Woods after making a putt. So Paolo's talking while he's leaving the tunnel. Exiting the stadium. So yeah, good for them. You're glad that you can make someone's season when you can, and it doesn't really cost much. So. Yeah,
I mean that is a good point to bring up though, and I'm not. We're joking around with like this was their NBA Finals. They played hard. I am at least. Because sometimes I think it gets a little silly on NBA Twitter when they're like, "Oh, they treated this like a Game 7." It's like, that's what we're playing for. Like we want to win the games, but it is important to note that for the Magic, this is like a legitimately important game. This could determine if they're in the 7-8 play-in or the 9-10 play-in. So they're taking this seriously. The Cavs, on the other hand, it's like we won 16 in a row. Mobley is going to rest this game. Basically, Mitchell was questionable. It's like, I mean, they played hard. I don't think they lost because of lack of effort, but clearly this game meant more to one side. And so that's where some of the little things, right? Like being sloppy with the ball, not being ready for the full court press probably doesn't happen in a playoff series where the intensity is equal. But the Magic didn't even really outplay us that much in terms of energy, but it clearly meant more to them.
Yeah, I mean, I think the Cavs just missed shots. And like after the game, there was numerous questions to DeAndre Hunter about like the team missing shots, and are you concerned if they're like overly reliant on the three? And he's like, we've been winning because of like the shooting, and it's like usually the team that makes the most shots wins the games. And it's like, that's kind of like the thing in basketball, like the goal is to make more shots, and usually the good teams make more. So that's just, it's sort of like we're like 67 games into the season, and it's the Cavs have made more shots than their opponent most nights. And when they haven't made shots, they have other ways to score. It's just a weird occurrence of events. Like it's fine. I thought the clutch time offense was fine. They just took their eye off the ball in the third quarter, like just a bad third quarter.
No, I thought their process overall was good. I don't think this is a point that I've been mentioning a lot recently is like the Cavs. I haven't gotten a sense at any point in the year where when they're not shooting the three ball well, they're forcing it kind of like the Celtics might. I do feel like the Cavs try to pivot and find alternatives. Yesterday it was just nothing was really working down the stretch, despite the fact that the process was good. Shots just weren't going in, and you had the weird turnovers in the third quarter, which I really think swung the entire game. But I want to transition to talk about no Evan Mobley. Evan Mobley's absence. He did not play in this game. He was out with a foot injury. I don't think anyone's expecting that to be a concern moving forward. It was basically just resting. But obviously, not having Mobley impacts the defense. But I think we're also seeing how important he is to the Cavs offense as well. So, Jackson, how different would this game be if Mobley was out there?
I think the biggest difference is, well, obviously, Mobley's a great player, probably an all-NBA player. So don't want to like downplay his importance to this team. But like the Cavs still should have won. The Cavs had all the pieces that they should have won. But one of the things that I think it highlights down the stretch is like one of the reasons why the Cavs weren't able to get to the paint is because like Orlando's bigs were just kind of standing there. Wendell Carter Jr. was chilling in the paint. There was a couple times where like even Allen caught Carter chilling in the paint too much and was able to set a screen. That's how they got the Strus 3 like the last minute of the game. Just because Carter was just way too late in rotating over. But his packing the paint kept the Cavs from really being able to easily get there. And when you just have Mobley and Hunter as your closing 4 or 5, it just opens up things so much because Mobley's a much better ball handler than Allen. Mobley's a shooter. So not that you're going to just say like, hey, we're just going to settle for these Mobley corner threes. But what you can do is just have Mobley like operate as a ball handler a lot more, just do a lot more things with Mobley out there than you can with Allen. And I think that's where it really like showed itself most. That's when I thought like when watching the game, like, man, if you had Mobley out here, this would look a whole lot easier. And like they still got clean looks, but I think they would also have gotten clean looks going to the basket too. But yeah, Mobley's good. So, obviously they missed him.
I agree. But I think that's a really good point. Just the fact that Mobley can do a little bit of more of the perimeter stuff. Like, listen, even just throughout the course of a game, not even just in the closing lineup, but like there's lineups now where the Cavs are kind of going 5 out with Evan Mobley. Like they didn't shoot the ball well from 3 yesterday. Maybe Mobley would have had it going from 3. Like he's shown that he can actually do that now. Again, you don't want to settle for a bunch of Mobley threes, but he does stretch the defense in a way that Jarrett Allen just can't. And to be fair to Jarrett Allen, he was very good yesterday. He had 20 points, 12 rebounds. He shot 8 of 11 from the field. Only 2 shots in the fourth quarter and only 4 shots overall in the second half. And that's mainly because the Magic, as you said, just kind of said, all right, we're going to pack the paint and swarm the ball every time you try to get it to Allen because you're not hitting threes tonight. And the Cavs weren't able to call their bluff. I think this is where Mitchell kind of forcing the issue at times was a bit of a detriment to the offense. But I mean, look, his scoring in the third quarter and early in the fourth did help the Cavs get back into it. So there's a give and take there. It's always a balance with Mitchell taking over the games and getting others involved, but trying to get back to the paint and get Allen involved would have been nice. But again, if you have Mobley, it kind of changes that because Mobley, he can create for himself more than Allen. Maybe the big to big passing is something that works against Orlando in that game. Or again, maybe Mobley has the 3-point shot going. There's just a lot of different areas that Mobley could have helped. And his defense too. Like I thought the Cavs were fine on defense, but Evan Mobley's obviously the front runner for Defensive Player of the Year. So big difference not having Mobley out there. And I feel way more comfortable with Mobley out there against the Magic if they end up meeting again in the playoffs.
One thing that I think is really easy to overlook with Mobley is how well he pairs with Mitchell, especially with those bench lineups. And I think that's where end of the third quarter, it was that bench lineup that would have been Mobley plus Donovan plus 3 reserves. It would have been that group out there on the court when the game really felt like it really flipped where they had like the 3 straight turnovers and like it went from like, oh, the Cavs are up 7-0, it's a 1-point game or whatever. So like, that was some Tristan Thompson minutes, which I don't think Tristan Thompson was the reason why Tristan Thompson didn't turn it over.
He was fine. Yeah.
But they also they did some weight at the center minutes that didn't go well compared to like the past. So I think that Mobley just being out there to close that third quarter, instead of a lineup where Mitchell had to do everything because he's kind of is like the only real creator on the floor. You put Mobley out there in a lineup with Jerome, Mitchell, Merrill, Wade, and it's like, oh, things kind of click in a lot better in that situation than if like you're just constantly relying on like a high Tristan Thompson screen. So I think that there's a lot of areas where Mobley's presence was missed. But I think just kind of in the way the lineups work together, like he's been the glue that keeps everything going in those situations. And that's why we've seen this year, the Cavs, 4 of their 11 losses have come when either Mobley was out of the game or when he like left early, like in that like Miami game. And so nobody else is like that. The Cavs keep winning without Garland. They keep winning without Mitchell. They keep winning without Allen. Well, they haven't played without Allen, but I think that's a reason why you see that like pretty big difference there.
Yeah. If I remember correctly, I saw the tweet. The Cavs are 5-4 this year when Mobley doesn't play. Is that the record? Something like
It's
that. I know they've
yeah.
lost 4 games without Mobley, basically.
That's counting the Heat
Counting the
game as a
Miami
loss,
game, yeah.
but I don't think it's fair because the Cavs were sucking it up. Like when
That
Mobley
is
was
true.
out there, like they were really bad with Mobley out there, and then he left and it was over.
Yeah. Either way, they've been losing games without Evan Mobley, and I think I saw this take flying a lot, and I kind of agree. I mean, I do agree with it. He is the most important player on this team. I still think Mitchell's the best player on the team, but Mobley's the most important. And so I have one more thing that I want to hit on, unless you want to push back on that. I mean, it gets weird. When you try to say most important, it gets weird.
Yeah, it is important. I mean, I think that your best player is like your most important player usually.
Yeah.
So, and
that's what I mean. Yeah.
I still think that's Mitchell. But obviously things fall apart. Things fall apart whenever you're missing one of your best players, so that's understandable. That's part of the NBA.
Yeah, the difference between like best player and most important, it's really sometimes NBA fans are just we get a little lost in the semantics. I think it's a silly thing.
When you start trying to parse it that way, you can start getting to like Ty Jerome's the most important player because it's like, well, you need your bench.
Draymond Green's actually the most important
player,
and it's
like
Warriors championship teams. It's like no, yeah. So I get you there. But he's clearly proven this year how much more important he is than ever before. I have one last take that I want to get to before we wrap. DeAndre Hunter didn't have a great offensive game last night. Didn't really play all that well. But one thing that I really enjoyed watching is him defending Paolo Banchero. Because, listen, Isaac Okoro, he did everything he could in that Orlando series last year. Played really good defense against Paolo. But he just didn't have the size to contest those jumpers. So he's being physical with them. He's fending him off. But Banchero could basically rise up and shoot over him anytime he wants. DeAndre Hunter not only is strong enough to kind of fight Paolo in the post, but he also has the reach to contest his jump shot. So Banchero shot 6 of 22 yesterday. That's not all with Hunter guarding him. But I thought overall it just looked very different having Hunter out there on Banchero. And even like when they tried to switch him onto Wagner, whoever else, like, we know it at this point. The Cavs have needed a wing for a long time. They finally got one. Everyone's already talked about it plenty of times, but it's just nice to see it once again against the team that we played in the playoffs last year, where you can easily see where Hunter fits in here.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, they were playing George Niang on him at times last year. So that was also because Wade was out too. But big difference. And the Magic just not having any point guard is just it's bad. You're just putting Paolo in a bad position. You're putting Franz in a bad position. There's a reason why their record is what it is and their offense is as bad as it is consistently. But Hunter definitely helps in that situation. Yeah.
No, if the Cavs and Magic,
you wanted to talk nice about Hunter, and I said I'll just take one more drive by of the Magic and their entire franchise.
One more.
Sorry about that. No. Hunter's good. Hunter's good.
If the Cavs and Magic meet in the playoffs, it's gonna be a bloodbath. I mean, we're gonna destroy this Magic team, and that's no disrespect to the Magic
on one side.
But that's what I mean. Like, and to be clear, I actually don't even want to play them because they're just such a tough physical team that like I think we'd beat them in 4 or 5, but I'd still prefer to play like Atlanta.
You don't want to play
someone who's not gonna bang us up.
You'd rather play Brad's Hawks?
Yeah, no, I would. Right. The best team in the NBA, according to Brad. Fine. Yeah, but no.
NBA Cup hypothetical champions.
Yeah, the hypothetical champs too. They didn't even actually get there. Oh man, but don't overreact, Cavs fans. And really, it's not even just Cavs fans. I see the NBA Twitter in general just being like, "Oh, this is Brandon Jennings." I think said like, "Oh, the Magic could actually knock out the Cavs in round 1." Something disastrous would need to happen, like multiple injuries, multiple players having the worst performances of their careers. Like the Cavs are so far ahead of Orlando this year. And again, it's no disrespect to the Magic, but they've taken a step back and we've taken like 20 steps forward. It's just don't overreact to one game, please, guys.
Please don't. No need to do that.
On that note, that's going to do it for this episode of the Junkyard Pod. If you enjoyed and you want to support the show, then please drop a like, leave a comment, and make sure you hit the subscribe button. Those things go a long way towards helping the channel, and we really appreciate it. Jackson will be live on Playback tonight. I'll be live tomorrow at 10:30 for the Cavs' upcoming West Coast road trip. And Jackson's hosting the Wednesday night game. So make sure you join us on Playback for all those games. And with all that being said, go Cavs.
I agree. Go Cavs.
Bye.